All right, welcome to the Broadleaf inbox. This is a brand new thing that we're going to try for a while, just to give you an opportunity to answer any questions that you may have that have to do with writing or the conference or any programs we have or I don't know, anything at all. So this is a great opportunity for you to get questions in, to join us and ask questions live. And then I will try to figure out the technology side of it and make things work for you. What prompted this is that we've gotten a large number of questions regarding the sixth annual Broadleaf Writers Conference. It's going to be October 16th and 17th, and we are remaining virtual this year. And so we were receiving a lot of questions about it, and some of them were overlapping, and we thought it would be really great just to be able to answer those questions first, and then after that, start working on answering the other questions that you may have. So, what I want to do is kind of run through some of the questions that we have, and after which, I've got some other questions that are just general questions about writing that we'll do. I figure we'll be here about 15 minutes or so, and then any questions that are left over, we'll carry over to next week, and we'll keep this rolling as long as you guys have questions. So, the first question that came up was, I'll just read the question. Why did we make the decision to remain virtual for 2021 when people are getting vaccinated and mask mandates are being relaxed? And first and foremost, I want to say that this was not an easy decision for the organization. The conference committee discussed it for a good long while, and in January decided that it would be best to go ahead and make a commitment one way or the other. And with the way things were looking at the time, with the uncertainty in the vaccine rollout and the safety concerns that would come up in trying to facilitate an in-person conference, it just seemed best for this year to go ahead and remain virtual, for the safety and well-being of our attendees, our speakers, our volunteers, our broadleaf staff, and then on top of that, um, there's still a great hesitancy, even now with the vaccine being as effective in the rollout as it has been. There's still a great hesitancy to travel, to get on planes, and to be in person. And with the enormity of creating a conference in person, it just became more important to go ahead and make a commitment to being virtual this year and work toward an in person again next year. Which leads to the second question. Wouldn't you rather have an in-person conference? And oh boy, would we. In the words of Jessica Nettles, who is Broadleaf board member and vice chair for the conference committee, we want to see you all, hug you all, swap stories, and definitely shed some tears. But unfortunately, we're just not at that point yet. Things are definitely better, and that's great. But there's still, as I mentioned, a great deal of hesitancy in traveling and for people to get in person, to go meet in person. So, the logistics of everything was just going to be too much. So, yes, we would so desperately like to have our group back together in person, but it's just not a reality this year. Next question was, what is the benefit of attending a virtual conference? We had many variations of this question. Been asked last year and this year, and my answer is still the same. There are actually a lot of benefits to a virtual conference that you cannot receive with the in-person conferences that we've done before, and many that others have done as well. And I mean, as writers, we tend to be very introverted, so the idea of being able to attend an entire conference in your pajamas. If it's anything less, I don't want to know about it. But from the comfort of your own home or wherever you feel most comfortable, that's a huge benefit. Secondly, the cost to attend is significantly less. I'll address that later. And there's no travel, no gas, no added expense of food. And on top of that, and most importantly, every single panel and workshop is recorded. So you end up getting the whole package of recordings. If you usually in person will have difficulty trying to decide which panel do I go to. You got two on at the same time. Well, now you get to see both. You just don't get to see them at the same time. You can watch them anytime you want afterward. And you get the entire package of recordings. If you register for the conference, you'll get it shortly after once they're completely edited. which is not a short process. Um, but I don't get to see anyone or talk to anyone. Isn't one of the best parts of a conference getting to talk to and connect with speakers and fellow attendees? And without a doubt, that is the best part of being able to go to a writing conference in person. Um, you want to be able to be with your people and go back to that hugging and sharing stories and stuff like that. But we are working very, very hard to try to create some face-to-face opportunities, despite the fact that we're virtual. We last year we did for each lunch we did something called a lunchtime chat. Where I and some board members and some of our speakers were available in the sort of regular Zoom setup where you can see everybody, or if you want to have your video off, you can. But it gave us an opportunity to see one another and talk to one another. And this year, we're going to take a step further and create breakout rooms where you can go talk to individual speakers. And then we'll have our main room talking about whatever you guys want to talk about. In addition, we're working on additional thing either Friday night or Saturday night, possibly both, if we can pull both off, where we have some storytelling time, where we have more opportunities for people to see one another and talk to one another and use the chat and chat to one another. So we're going to create every opportunity we can for you to have that feel of being in person, even if you aren't. And as the technology has advanced, it's certainly making that more easy to accomplish. Next question. One of the reasons I go to conferences is to pitch my manuscript to an agent. Will I still be able to do that? And yes, you absolutely will. If you were with us last year, you got to experience it. But if you're familiar at all with Zoom, the main Zoom, we use the webinar version for the panels and workshops. So your video and audio is actually off. But in the main Zoom, the basic format of it, you have full audio and video, and we have the main room where you come in for your sessions. We have the breakout rooms where you go to talk to agents or for our mentoring sessions with authors and agents, and you'll be completely private. You get your full 10 minutes. It's not sitting across the table from somebody, but it is the next best thing because they're right there on the screen and they're there just to hear you. And so you still have that opportunity. And I definitely highly recommend everybody who registers get that pitch session in and the mentoring session because you get one of each with your registration. Next question comes to the cost. Does it cost the same for the virtual conference as it would normally? And no, it does not. We figured that it was best to drop the cost since we are going to be virtual. And it's been a very rough time for everybody for the last year and a half, and we want to make sure that we soften the blow as much as we possibly can. So the registration, there's no early registration or late registration. It's $175 gets you everything. Or if you are a member or buy a membership during registration, your registration cost drops to 150. And so that gives you the opportunity to see both days, all the panels, all the workshops. You get your one-on-ones and all the recordings. So it's a huge, huge opportunity at a very low cost. And it will not stay there when we go back in person. So definitely a great opportunity right now. Next question. And the caps are on here, so I have to put the emphasis on it. Will you ever be in person again? And I go back to that same question before. We absolutely cannot wait to be in person again. We went into this year with the hopes of being back in person, that everything would kind of calm down this year, and that we could have some sense of normalcy. But it's just not. We're just not there yet. And with the planning and cost that goes into putting in an in-person on an in-person conference, it just wasn't going to be feasible to cross our fingers and take a wing and a prayer and hope that things worked out, and then the safety concerns and hesitancies and everything. But we cannot wait. So just expect that when we are in person again next year, that it will be a celebration as much as it will be a conference. Um, Next question was, what if I prefer the virtual conference going forward? And that's an excellent question because we have learned an immense amount about how to utilize technology for conferences going forward. And though we want to actually be in person, I would expect beginning next year some form of hybrid approach to it, where if you whether you're local or whether you live across the country or around the world or wherever it happens to be, if you want to attend virtually, that we have the same general setup as we're going to have this year, obviously, but with people in person that we're filming or recording. And we're going to work on that and we'll have more information for you, but fully expect that there are going to be components of this that are virtual going forward for people who don't actually want to attend an in-person, but then we'll have the in-person option as well. And I think, if there's anything that's come out of this pandemic and everything we've had to do to bring programming to you, that's the greatest benefit, that we've learned a lot about technology and how we can use it to benefit you going forward. Next question. Will all of the sessions be live or will you pre-record some panels or workshops? We do everything live. We could record some ahead of time and bring it to you, but there's something about even virtually, there's something about the spontaneity of the moment and having attendees being able to chat with one another and chat with the speakers while the panel's going on, ask your questions live, and the sort of twists and turns that come up from the conversation out of that. So we don't pre-record anything, though we do record everything. And then the final conference question I have says, this may be a silly question, but I don't live in your time zone. Does the conference schedule reflect Eastern Standard Time? And as I answered, there's no silly questions here, only silly writers. And we have found a way to encourage people to come to a conference in their pajamas. So I figure that's kind of silly to begin with. But to answer the question, and I generally don't think about time zones, but I'm glad this question was asked because it is important that people know um, that it is Eastern Standard Time and that all of our listings will reflect that. I think on Facebook in the event that it changes based on the time zone you're in. So you might want to make sure you're seeing the time zone EST, CST, PST, whatever it happens to be, to plan accordingly. And if there are ever any questions with that, I'm always available. Zach at broadleafwriters.com. And so that's all the conference questions I have, but we do actually have a number of other questions that were submitted ahead of time. And let's see. The first question that I had is how do you get more opportunities to be on live panels online and in real life? It's often about who you know, though maybe there's some other way for people to go about it. That one was a great question because it's kind of the same, and I think it actually answers one of the other questions coming up too. Kind of the same idea as um, trying to get your book into a bookstore, you need to be involved. You need to get to know the people who run programs, whether they're running programs through a bookstore, whether they're running programs through a library, whether they're running programs through a writing organization. Get involved. Talk to the people. I mean, with our organization, it's very easy because our board members are very eager to talk about it, and they're always available at programs, and they're listed on our website. And the more we see your face and the more we know about your writing journey, the more likely it is that you're going to be involved in programs. And then, you know, uh, bookstores and libraries are no different. You need to get to know the booksellers, you need to get to know the librarians, especially your local bookstores and your local libraries, your local branches. They need to know who you are. Otherwise, you're one of many, many people who are pitching to be involved in programming. And so to some degree that you're right in the question that it is a little bit of a who you know kind of situation, but it's who you know because you've worked for it. And so definitely I always encourage people to be involved and to make sure that people get to know you. It's a lot easier. And if you are just kind of blind pitching other organizations, I think being able to cite that you're a member of like our organization in particular is a good way to go. This one is a bigger question, and I think I'm going to go ahead and read it. I'm going to tell you a little bit of what I know, and then I'm going to say that I'm actually digging for more information. Um, in terms of tax deductions, I often hear writers confused in regard to what they can and can't deduct, and it's something I never see talked about anywhere. So the question is, what can be deducted and what can authors do to help themselves in the pursuit of sustainability? Um, so that is an excellent question, and that definitely is one that every writer needs to consider, and probably doesn't most of the time. I'm not a tax expert, so I'm not going to give you direct tax advice. I am working with an accountant to try to get you as much information as I possibly can. So look for more on this next week. But one of the things that writers will do to try to help offset the tax burden of, say, getting advances or royalties, and also to be able to maximize deductions, is they actually create a corporation to be the company that they work for. An SCorp is the one that is most often thrown at me. Again, I'll have more information on that next week, but. Um, in terms of getting deductions on the things you do as a writer, because you do work at home, to maximize those and get the most out of those deductions you can, you actually have to run through a corporation. You are its employee, and you can pay yourself through the company. Um, so again, I'll have more information on this next week, but the one thing you definitely want to look into if you don't have an accountant is trying to find as much information as you can about forming your own corporation, and then every check that's written to you or payment that's made to you, since checks are not actually a thing anymore, is written to that company rather than directly to you. And then the benefits or the deductions are applied to the taxes of that company, so it maximizes the deductions. Um, got a couple more here, and then let's see if I can figure out how to get to the comments on this live thing because it's the first time I've done this. Does your publisher ask for blurbs, the author of the book, or both? Is there some etiquette around this? And it is both. It's always going to be both in any kind of marketing situation, promotion situation. I don't care if you're with Random House Penguin or if you're with a small press, indie press, whatever it happens to be. There's going to be a level of marketing and promotion that your publisher takes on, and then there's going to be what you need to do, and you need to do as much as you can. If you want to get blurbs, that your publisher may have a connection to writers that they want to fish for, but you're best to communicate with your publisher and or the publicist working for the publisher, and let them know that you're going to try to find some as well, and you go get them through your own connections or through connections of other people that you know. I am a person you might know. I don't know. I might be able to help you find blurbs for your own book, but always expect that if you have a book out, that you are going to be doing some heavy lifting on the promotion for it, and blurbs are definitely one part of that. Do you think it's okay to go to bookstores and libraries and offer ARCs? And yes, it's absolutely okay for you to do that. Um, what I would recommend again is for you to get to know the bookstore, the booksellers, the librarians. Go to programs, let them see your face. I know obviously you can't do that for every bookstore, every library, but definitely for your local branches and your local stores, you should absolutely. You should absolutely get to know and be involved. The more that you are involved, the more they're going to know you, and definitely introduce yourself. You don't have to pitch your work every time, but just let them know who you are. It's an easier way to do that. There is a bit of I never actually answered the etiquette question on the publisher, the blurbs thing, so I'm going to add it to this one. There is an etiquette to doing this, and it is very important that you follow it because ARCs were created to be sent to bookstores and reviewers and librarians. But you should always check with bookstores on the website or in the store itself. Make a call, go in and introduce yourself if it's local, and make sure you know how they want to receive ARCs. Not every bookstore or library is going to want to. is going to want to have just an ARC show up. It actually diminishes, having been in that situation on both sides of that, it diminishes the importance of the book, first of all. Making a call ahead of time, saying who you are, sending an email and introducing yourself and asking if they're willing to accept it gives you a little bit of leeway. And I would highly recommend some type of one page um, either a press release if you're working with a publisher and publicist, or something you've written yourself that's a little little details about you in the book and why you wrote it, kind of thing, and any kind of credits that you may have. So that's definitely the etiquette for that. Going back to the blurbs, there is an etiquette for that as well, and it's very similar. You don't want to just assume somebody's going to do something. You don't want to um, be or come off kind of uncaring about it, I guess is the way I would put it. So you want to be able to research the author or the bookstore or the library and make sure you know a little bit about them, a little bit about how they like to receive these things. And if you are searching for a blurb, the etiquette for that one is just to understand that writers are very busy, especially writers who are on continual contracts. Not only are they on deadlines, but they are also receiving a ton of requests for blurbs, and probably even doing some side work and editing because, hey, a little extra money is always going to help a writer. So they may not actually have a full open schedule to be able to take your book in, and you have to be able to, much like getting the used to the rejection from agents and editors, you have to get used to the idea that not everybody is going to want to read your book, and do you a solid of giving you a blurb or getting you into the bookstore or anything like that. The last thing I'll say about that is once you've made your request, don't follow up within days or a week. You're going to have to give at least 2 to 3 weeks before you follow up. So you want to be sure that you're doing this well ahead of any release that you may have coming out. Um, Looking through comments, I see a lot of pajama talk, which is awesome. And yeah, so that's all the questions I have this week. Like I said, this is something I've wanted to do for a while. I'm very excited about doing it going forward. And what we'll do is the Thursday before we have it, we'll call for questions. It'll be open all the way until the time I go live. It will not always be me. I'm hoping to be able to get some guest inbox answers, probably some writers, agents, whatever we can do. So you have questions that you can have answered from them. But we're just going to kind of roll with it like this for a little bit so we can get used to the process and get everybody used to the idea of getting us questions and everything. But that's all I have for today. So thank you for those of you who are here. I'm going to edit this Joker and put it out there so everybody else can see it. And look for the call for more questions Thursday because we will be doing this again next Tuesday. And I'll hope to have more information on the tax question. And then there were a couple questions that had to do with short stories and agents looking for short stories. I didn't have time to get answers for those, so I will transfer those over to next week and have some information for you. So that's what I'm here for. That's what we as an organization are here for, to help you, to guide you, to answer your questions. And I look forward to helping you guys anytime I can. And as I said before, Zach at broadleafwriters.com. I will always answer your email. You know how to find me on social media. If you don't, very easy to find. I always accept messages and try my best to answer them. So, best to you all, best to you in your writing, and I will see you soon.